welcome back to my channel and a new video. So for today's video, I thought I would show you guys some spring book recommendations that I, for some reason, think fits with the spring theme. And you know, spring is coming up, it's March. Here the sun is starting to show up every day again, and it's just a beautiful time of the year in my opinion. And certain books are just the spring feels. So here are some spring book recommendations that I recommend to you guys. The first book on my list is Here We Are Now by Jasmine Warga. I bought this book because I really enjoyed her other book that's called My Heart and Other Black Holes, which I read a few years back now, but I really loved that one. And when I found out that she had another book, I immediately wanted to get my hands on it. My Heart and Other Black Holes was a really like deep, dark vibes kind of thing, but this I would say it's more on the lighter side, hence why I think it's perfect for this time of year. This is a YA contemporary story where we follow this teenage girl who is living with her mom. Her dad has never really been in the picture, and she's always been wondering about her father, as one do. One day he shows up at her doorstep wanting to have a relationship with her because he just found out about her. She has been writing him letters for all these years, but he recently just now got them. He happens to be a famous rock star, so he gets a lot of letters, fan letters and stuff, so he never got a chance to read the letters that his daughter wrote to him until now. So he shows up at her doorstep when her mom is not home, and she wants to have a relationship with him, and he wants to have a relationship with her. So in this book you follow as father and daughter are trying to build a relationship with each other when the kid is already grown up. You know, she's a teenager, they have never met before, never had any contact before, and it's a beautiful, I think, inspirational story about building bonds, building relationship with your parents. And I don't know, I just thought it was a really cool story. I don't know really what I was expecting when I picked it up, but when I closed this book, I felt a hope of, like, I felt hopeful and inspirational. And I don't know, I just think it's perfect for this time of year when everything starts to bloom, you know, like a relationship blooming. I don't know, it just really fit with the vibe of spring, I think. So this is definitely my first recommendation. The next book I have on my list is Farrell Youth by Sean David Hutchinson. This one I talked a lot about when I read this, I think like 2 years ago or something. I fell in love with this author. I read quite a few books of him and I want to read all of his books. And this one in particular I thought could really fit with spring. So in this book, we follow a group of teens. I can't remember how many, but like a group of teens that all come together at this camp. And this is not an ordinary summer camp. This is like an outdoor activity camp that kind of you send your kids to when they have been in trouble. So at this camp, you will learn to cooperate. You will learn to like face your fears. You will learn to build a relationship and like take responsibility and stuff like that. So it's an outdoor camp that will teach you stuff about life. So here different teens come together and they all are very different. So many different people with different personalities all come together in this camp. And I just thought it was such an interesting story. I love the camp setting and the fact that we have so many different personalities and so many different people coming together, and they have this one thing in common, you know, that they need to survive this camp. They need to get through this camp because their parents sent them there. And they're all so different, but yet they all come together to push through this. And it's just such a beautiful and inspirational story, this book too. And I don't know, I just thought it was perfect, and I can't wait to reread it. I might actually reread it this spring because I do think it's perfect for spring/summer. So I definitely recommend picking this up if you are interested in camp setting, teams coming together to learn stuff about themselves, but also like about life. So just a perfect read. The next book I want to recommend has been in so many of my videos, but it is Flipped by Benelin van Dranen. And this, if I would describe spring with a book, I would probably say Flipped, honestly. What's interesting about this is I actually watched the movie way before I read the book. I didn't know it was a book, but I loved the movie. As soon as I knew it was a book, I ordered it, I read it, I fell in love with it. But also, please go watch the movie because the movie is amazing, and the actors, the setting, everything. So when I read this for the first time, I like pictured the actors and the setting that was in the movie just because I watched the movie first. But yeah, this is basically a beautiful story about Bryce and Juliana. So Bryce lives in this quiet neighborhood that's really like picturesque looking, nice town, and he's just a little kid. And one day he and his family gets a new neighbor. A new family is moving in across the street. And in this family, there's a little girl called Julie. And Julie immediately gets really captured by Bryce. She instantly falls in love with him. Like, I remember these are kids, like they're young kids. And she wants to play with him, wants to do everything with him, wants to be friends with him, but he thinks she's really a pain in the ass. He doesn't want anything to do with her. He thinks she is just not, no, doesn't want to be friends, nothing. You follow these kids, like, as they grow up, they become children, teenagers, and Julie has always kind of had this crush on Bryce, right? But Bryce has never been interested. But until something happens. Bryce is starting to realize what a beautiful human being Julie is, like on the inside. She is so passionate about what she loves. She is such a strong soul, and he is kind of starting to realize what he's been missing all these years and what a beautiful human being she really is. But at that time when Bryce realizes that, it might be too late because Julie might have moved on. And it's just such a beautiful story, and I don't know, I feel like spring is the perfect time to read it because it's also like about blooming, you know, the relationship blooming, and you realize stuff, and it's just such a beautiful story. Please go read this, and then when you have read it, please go watch the movie, please. The next book I have on my list is Where the Crawdads Sing by Delia Owens. So if you have followed my channel for a while, you know this was my favorite book of all times last year. I think last year. It was my favorite book of the year, and it's to this day is one of my favorite books of all time that I've ever read. And I've talked a lot about it, but I just needed to have it on here because I do think that spring is the perfect time to read this if you yet haven't. In this book you follow a girl named Kaya, who is also called the Marsh Girl because she lives up in the marsh in North Carolina, I believe, or South Carolina, I don't know. But all like that only was so atmospheric to me because what I really pictured was Dawson's Creek, you know? I don't know if that was filmed in North or South Carolina, but I just keep picturing Dawson's Creek, you know, where the kids lived. It was like the marsh, the lake. I just keep picturing that scene, and that's just beautiful. So you follow Kaya actually her entire life. You follow her from when she's a little girl until she is an old woman. So that's really cool. And the Marsh Girl has this reputation of being really weird, being really odd. She doesn't really have any friends. No one really actually knows her. They just have these judgmental thoughts about her. She's kind of like an outsider. And one day her family leaves her and she's all alone on her own, trying to figure out life, trying to figure out what becoming an adult and a teenager for a girl is like. And she's, you know, struggling with stuff, obviously, and you follow her as she's growing up on her own by herself, and she has this really big passion for the marsh and the creatures there, and her dream is to one day become an author and talk and write about these kinds of stuff, the creatures in the marsh and nature, wildlife. Just really hopeful and inspirational, but also really, really sad. So she is determined to become a writer, and you get to follow her as she's fighting for her dreams on her own, you know, and it's just heartbreaking, but such a beautiful story. You also have a little bit of romance in here, which I think was nice. I appreciated that. But overall, I think the main thing about this book is finding yourself and finding your way, reaching for your goals. Such a beautiful story and perfect for this time of year. The last book on my list of spring book recommendations is Beyond the Break by Heather Bushta. First of all, look at this cover. This was purely a cover buy. I mean, moonlight, surfing, palm trees, beach. What more can you want in a cover? Honestly, like... This is a story about Lavette. She and her brother, her entire family basically, has always liked surfing. They were really good at it. Until one day, her brother got in a really bad accident while surfing. So now she doesn't surf anymore. She doesn't really go near the water anymore. And most important, she isn't allowed to. Her parents do not allow her to surf anymore, to go near the water even. But Lavette has just this really strong passion for surfing and for the water, and she's just really desperately wanted to get back, but she's also of course really scared and terrified because of the accident her brother was in while surfing. So instead of surfing, Lavette has found another passion, a passion for God. So she spends her day in youth group and kind of trying to perfection her relationship with God and like herself, and she has promised God to not be in any relationship but with God. It's been a while since I read it, but I'm pretty sure that she made this promise to God, that she promised to not date anyone to only have a relationship with God as a thank you for like saving her brother. I'm not sure, but I think it was something like that she made a promise to God that she wouldn't date and she wouldn't serve and stuff in order to like thank you for saving my brother. I'm not sure, it's been a while since I read it. But then she meets this guy who is also a Christian, and they have been friends since they were little kids, but they haven't really had a relationship before. And he kind of ruined it for her because Lavette is really actually doing fine. She misses surfing, yeah, sure, but she's doing fine. She's found other hobbies, other passionate things. But this guy she meets is determined to bring her back to the water, to her roots, to surfing again. And Lavette is obviously really scared, but she loves surfing and she wants to do it again. And this guy helps her to move over that fear, and he helps her to realize that you can have a relationship with God, but also with others, and you can do what you love. It's okay. And it's a beautiful and heartfelt story, I would say, of relationship and healing your relationship with stuff and overcoming things. I don't know, I just thought it was a really cool story and an inspirational story that not a lot of people are talking about. I don't think I heard anyone talk about this book. It's definitely underrated. I don't think enough people talk about this book, but I definitely recommend it for this time of year. I think it's perfect, and I mean, if you're into surfing, it's even better. So definitely recommend this book. But yeah, that was it for my spring book recommendations. If you haven't read any of these, please let me know, or if you're wanting to, just let me know your thoughts. I would love to chat about it. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys in one of my next videos. Bye.